Hello and welcome to the SPD podcast. Now, let's have a look at the main topics for today. Skegness Town Council stops cutting all grass verges.
Indeed, that's what is going to happen.
The second topic, we're going to have a discussion about what apolitical means and non-political. It shouldn't be that controversial, but it's quite clear that a few people get confused. And third and finally, we're going to discuss the Remembrance Parade, a significant, important event throughout our diary as local politicians. And it's really important that we have a good, frank conversation about its future and how it's going to be maintained. Shall we run into the main topic then, Steve?
Yes, indeed.
I don't think you need any introduction. I think your voice is, I'm sure, quite well known. So let's run through the very, very beginning then. Why are we having a conversation about Skegness Town Council stopping cutting all grass verges in the town?
It goes back really to 2016 when the County Council decided that they were not going to continue to cut the verges throughout the county 10 or 12 times a year, and they were just going to cut what they call their statutory health and safety cuts, which they decided was going to be 3 times a year.
Was that everywhere then? Were they going to do 3 times a year on all of their owned land?
My understanding is that right the way through the county, along all of the verges, that was what they were going to do.
Yeah, interesting actually, because already we've got a little bit of a conflict there because an LCC officer stated that it's purely for junctions and any area that could be deemed a hazard, and that was subject to their officer's discretion, which to me just makes it even more scary that was tabled. Absolutely,
because to be fair, when you look in the rural areas, where you've got miles, because we have got thousands and thousands of miles of rural roads within this huge county of Lincolnshire. And when you look at the rural aspect, you can see, does it really matter if the grass is long?
Well, we all know what Gumby Roundabout looks like in the height of summer.
Well, absolutely. But
that's going to be Beresford Avenue. That's going to be Roman Bank.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the difference is that on the roundabout there, you know, when the grass was 3 or 4 feet high, and that meant that there was no visibility to traffic that was travelling from Lincoln or to Lincoln out of Skegness, and that made it exceptionally dangerous. Now, I don't think in an urban environment, which I suppose Skegness is, although, you know, we're 2 minutes away from rurality all the time. In Skegness, it's not going to be that dangerous. But what it is going to be is it's going to be an eyesore, Dan.
Yeah. I mean, if we cast our minds back to 2017, I don't believe you were a town councillor at the time, Steve, but it was decided that the town council were just not going to allow this to happen. This was at a time, actually, when all the councillors in the chamber seemed to kind of work together for the best of Skegness. It was quite refreshing in comparison. But what was decided is, no, we can't have this happen. We're going to have to procure a contractor. Now, we were all under European procurement rules at that time, so anything above... yeah, I know.
Yes, I know. Yeah, go on,
anything above 10 grand... you'd have to go down some arbitrary procurement process, which would mean that the chances of being able to secure a contractor for the season was just not going to happen. But if we cast our minds back to 2017, it was a bit of a state.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a councillor at that time. I mean, I had been a councillor for 5 years prior to that, but at 2017, I wasn't involved in any council. But what I was involved in was walking around Skegness and seeing the mess that happened when we got contractors, we as in Skegness Town Council got contractors into the town to cut the grass.
Yeah, it wasn't to the standard that was appropriate, but they were having to do it for that £10,000 budget. What that meant is they would just take the machine over everything. If there was bottle, tin cans...
Absolutely.
You know, it would go through the machine. That in itself causes hazards. I can't recall any contractors putting signage out to state that that's what they were doing at the time.
No, absolutely not. I mean, we're talking, what we're talking about here, Dan, what we're actually talking about is a service and a gold-plated service.
Well, I mean, gold-plated, I think that's very aspirational, but yeah, that was the intent, wasn't it?
Yeah, but you know where I'm coming from when I say that, and I don't mean to be derogatory to anybody, to the contractors that we had at that time. But the thing was, the thing that I'm trying to get over is that we are talking chalk and cheese from the service that we have received from our own employees at Skegness Town Council compared to the service that was provided by contractors under a very strict and reduced, if you like, contract that they had to work to simply because of the European laws at the time.
Yeah. So now this is where the aspirations of the council, there was clear vision. At this time, it was decided that we were going to do it ourselves, but we couldn't just do it ourselves. There had to be a greater series of paybacks, essentially, which is how the Pavilion Tower Garden redevelopment started. The town council were gifted for £1 the car park, for kiosks, all the associated income from that, for the quid pro quo of the fact that now Skegness Town Council would have to take over some liabilities equally. So I know that I don't like to call the Tower Gardens a liability, but from a budget standpoint, it absolutely is.
Absolutely. To be fair, you cannot take on assets without there being a responsibility to maintain them, and that becomes a liability from day one. However,
financial liability.
Yeah, financial liability.
But a huge success story. The amount of complaints that we used to get, we as in the town clerk and his team, for the state of things that they had no control over was quite significant. That's been completely reversed to actually people stating how good and well kept the lawns are on the Tower Gardens, because there are local members of staff who take pride in the work that they do for their town. Local people, local work, local jobs.
Absolutely.
That was the objective, and as a consequence, we've now got Beresford Fields. There's also Winthorpe, amenity areas that are now, well, when I say now, were being cut. They always will be cut by Tower Gardens. I don't want to get that
absolutely
by the town council.
Let's just cut to the nub here, Dan. What we're talking about here is simply the verges that run along the roads within Skegness. So if you think of the ones that immediately come to mind, you've got Richmond Drive,
Lincoln Road,
you've got Roman Bank, you've got Sandbeck Avenue.
You're talking about arterial routes right now.
Absolutely, and what we don't want to see is grass 2 feet tall along those, any of those.
Or Gumby roundabout tall.
Or Gumby, yeah. Well, let's.
That's what's going to happen, Steve.
Now, let's be perfectly honest here. If the town council withdraws the service to cut the verge grasses that we are paid to do by Lincolnshire County Council, what will happen is they will then revert back to the responsibility of Lincolnshire County Council, and they, if we are lucky, they will cut them 3 times a year, as opposed to the 12-ish times that we are cutting them at the moment.
The same 3 times a year that Gumby Roundabout is also cut. With a tractor, with a flail mower, mowing down the litter, mowing down the dog mess, potentially.
Absolutely. And this is where perhaps I was a little bit excessive with the use of the phrase gold-plated service. But what I'm saying to you is the service that Skegness residents receive from the town council in relation to maintenance, etc., of our green areas is brilliant. It is done, as you say, by a local workforce who take pride in what they're doing. Now, I am not for 1 minute going to try and rubbish, for want of a better term, any contractors that Lincolnshire County Council may bring in.
Yeah, now, something that isn't immediately clear is now that the town council are currently providing those health and safety cuts, the Skegness Town Council is receiving about 11 grand a year, I think it is.
Absolutely.
For delivering that.
Yep.
Let's come directly to the actual main topic. Skegness Town Council has just voted, and the reason why we're kind of rushing this a tad is, well, that's a conversation in itself, probably for another time. I think those that are in the know that was inappropriately shared with us, with everybody in the community.
Yeah.
We don't need to go down that conversation as to why that's bad, I don't think. But 11 grand we get as an income.
Yep.
The clerk has calculated cutting back the services, cutting the service, i.e. stop providing amenity grass cutting on those grass verges, is going to save the council about 8.5 grand.
Absolutely. Which, to be fair, is neither here nor there. I mean, 8.5 grand sounds like a lot of money, but when you think that the income, including the precept, which is what the town council tax payers provide, is something in the region of £800,000 a year. So we're talking about saving 8,000. Well, we're actually not talking about saving £8,000 a year. What we're talking about is reducing the amount of precept, the amount of money that the Skegness residents have to pay within their council tax by about £8,500 a year.
So now, what's that in pounds and pence?
In pounds and pence, that works out at, depending what band of council tax you pay, somewhere between about 1.5p and 4p a week. And
a week.
And the fallout from that is that there is going to be a member of staff from our town council staff that work cutting the grass is going to be made redundant.
For 3p a week.
So that person, whoever they may be, and in actual fact, it may be more than one person. One person's liable to be made redundant, and maybe another one will also have their hours cut, because I don't think there's very many people that work for the council that work full time.
I think it's about 1,000 hours, so that's around about one full-time equivalent FTE. Yeah. So well, we'll just say it's one.
Say it's one.
Yeah.
Say it's one. So that one person, to save something between, let's say, about 1.5 and 4p a week, is actually going to lose their job.
So what the clerk has done essentially is calculated the prospective redundancy.
Yep.
It was pretty much worst case. At the end of the day, he was said that if the town council decides to make a redundancy, it could cost about 15 grand.
Yeah, I thought you said 14, but I'm not going to quibble with you.
We'll say 14. Around about £14,000 potentially. Yep. Worst case, that they're going to have to pay for redundancy, because you also have to top up their pension if they're over a certain age.
Absolutely.
And a variety of other things. So by making somebody redundant, stopping the grass cutting, you've still got a budget 14 grand.
Well, actually, you can't budget it at this moment in time.
Well, no, of course.
All you can actually do is budget the fact that we're going to be able to reduce the precept requirement by £8,500. However, if the costs of the redundancy are more than £8,500, then the council is going to have to find the difference from somewhere, and that will not be budgeted for. So it's going to have to come out of general reserve, which is going to make...
We can't do that.
Well, I know they can't.
Not for
do
a
that.
budget. The whole point of doing a budget for the next year is to forecast what your likely income is going to be and what your likely expenses are. Now, one person must say Skegness Town Council has got a little bit of a poison chalice, because the other unitary authorities, so Lincolnshire County Council and East Lindsey District Council, they are limited to how much they can put up their precept. I think it's to 2%. Is that
No,
right?
it's 4.99% is the maximum.
Okay, 4.99%. We know in the United Kingdom we're around about 10% inflation right now.
Absolutely.
So by definition, these authorities have got to find 5% just to stay doing the services.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
And again, that's a 10% based on a standard basket of goods is what they do it. And we all know that councils particularly are very service orientated. The biggest expense is, of course, staffing.
Yep.
With the unions and the pay rise increases, which they're undoubtedly owed. I'm not doubting that for one moment. But they are subject to inflationary pressures far more than a shop or any other aspect, a household.
Of course they are. And also, of course, because, as we've already discussed, most of the work that is done outside of the council is based on contractors.
Which council?
The county council.
Okay. That's the problem, isn't it? We all talk about the council, don't we?
I'm sorry, I do apologise. I should have said the county council. Like we said, if they need to go and start cutting the verges in Skegness, they will get contractors in. Now, contractors, of course, are under the cosh as far as inflation is concerned, and their costs are going up. So it's an ever decreasing spiral downwards. And to be fair,
That sounds a bit like our budget, doesn't it?
I was just going to say, and to be fair, Skegness Town Council budget is spiralling downwards and getting more and more difficult every year, because decisions are being made that are quite honestly bear no relation to where we ought to be. And that's good for some things, but it's very, very bad for others.
Yeah, and the point that I want to make actually is most people, they're not like us. They don't follow national and local politics.
No, they're not as sad as
and
we
that's
are,
kind of
Dan,
exactly why we're doing this, to try and engage in a discussion, and hopefully, if the response is good, maybe invite some guest speakers, and so that we can have a more engaging and inclusive conversation. Because I think this is important. Our residents need to know how their pounds and pence have been spent.
Absolutely.
They need to know what decisions and how that is going to impact their lives.
Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt, Dan. Without a shadow of a doubt.
And 3 pence per week. Yeah, of course, you've got some residents that are more than happy to strike up their lawnmower and cut the grass verge for 10, 15 minutes, dispose of the clip-ins, and that's fantastic. But the issue is, they're then liable for any problems. I know it's
Absolutely. It's absolutely.
I know. It doesn't happen, thankfully. Very rarely. I'm going to touch. You hear that?
Yeah, that's my
your
dining
head.
table, people.
I thought it was your head. No. It's unlikely that, but it is a risk. You know, if you're doing that, you are potentially taking that risk. And I just want to thank everybody out there that do that and make take pride in their street.
Yeah.
But 3p a week.
I know.
That wouldn't even strike my lawnmower up.
No, all mine. But the other thing, of course, is that you will have some people who will feel that is something that they ought to do or they need to do. But you'll have other people that will think, well, actually, I've paid my council tax.
Yeah.
And therefore, somebody should be coming and cutting the grass on the verge outside my house. So they leave it. So you get a street vision whereby somebody cuts the grass and somebody else doesn't, and somebody else doesn't, and somebody does. And is this the vista? That's a good word, isn't it? Vista. Is this the vista?
So. I've got visions of an old operating system slowing up the hard drive.
Yes, I know. But is that what people are actually going to want to be seeing in Skegness?
The issue is that the smaller residential, low traffic volume locations, Crescents, avenues to a certain extent. They're not going to. It's likely that some people are going to take the reins and kind of do it disgruntledly, of course. But it's your arterial routes, your Lincoln Road. How much grass is on Lincoln Road? Absolutely. And it's already a challenge with parked cars. We already know, there's lots of trees that need to be avoided. You're not going to get anybody doing that voluntarily, I don't think.
I mean, my ward within the council is the Winthorpe ward, which doesn't just encompass Winthorpe, it encompasses North Skegness. So within my ward, I have from the traffic lights going north, all of the verges along there are within my ward.
What about the bank, by the golf course?
Roman Bank.
The huge stretch of grassland.
All that is within. Will
that be stopped?
Ward. I have no idea. My understanding is that the large grassed area on the east side, i.e. the golf course side of Roman Bank, doesn't actually belong to anybody. So Skegness Town Council are cutting that simply because there was a resident, easy for me to say, a residents group or group of residents rather, that's more to the point, who actually approached the council and said, look, this is an absolute mess, can you cut it? So the council said yes, in the same way that they looked at the verges and said that would be an
at the end of the day
mess, and they cut that as well.
It's all the same money.
It's all the same money.
We pay, what, £1,400-1,500 council tax as residents per household? Does that really matter which authority? We're all paying the same money.
Absolutely.
Whether it's going from town council,
Absolutely, because if you think about this, you're right. I mean, depending on the size of your house and which band you're in, etc., but that's immaterial. Everybody has to pay council tax. The council tax...
Unless you receive means-tested benefits, is my understanding, which is a huge problem for our location because we've got a larger...
Could I just suggest that that's possibly a discussion for another day?
Yeah.
So
but I just want to... It's all about making people aware that we have a rough end of the deal sometimes down the coast.
Absolutely.
In Skegness. Yeah. And the town council has no other means of generating revenue. You either generate it yourself, which is what the kiosk rents, the rental of the hall,
the car park,
even the cafe's made a bit of a profit, so we'll take that as income as well. Let's not forget. But other than that and precept, that is it. It's not like the other councils where they can receive government grants for X, Y, and Z that tops up the fact that
it doesn't top it up.
No, it makes it up.
You will find that the council grants, the central government grants to principal councils, i.e. the county council and the district council, as far as I understand it, what comes in from central government is more than is paid in precept by council tax payers.
Well, I think that's fair, given they can only raise by 5%. I mean,
absolutely.
Otherwise we'd be in the same situation in Birmingham. And various other councils that have gone bust. How that happens, nobody knows. We are slightly digressing because...
Are we?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about...
That's a surprise.
That's the decision. Okay, this is what has happened. I think it would be useful now to actually discuss how and why, because I am quite confused. Because as councillors, our objective, in my opinion, and most other people, I think, to a certain extent, is to do the very best for our local residents.
Can I just interrupt you there?
Collectively.
And say that there is an excellent little phrase that can be used, which is, shut up, I'm talking, which is, we should be doing the best for Skegness, for the good and benefit of Skegness as a whole, as a council. And in my view, this decision is neither for the best of Skegness, it's not for the good of Skegness.
Well, what's it for then?
And it's definitely not for the benefit of Skegness. What's it for? I have no idea.
Are you sure?
Well, we could start talking politics here if that's where you want to go.
Well, I think the thing is with minutes of meetings, we do get the odd, 2 or 3 people that attend in person, and it's really good, and we thank them for their input when they do attend. But the most of this discussion has taken place in secret under private session.
Absolutely.
So nobody will truly be able to hear the conversation and the words that individuals have made. Now, there has been some quite shocking words that have been made.
Absolutely.
And I think it is right that we share and explain the challenge that councillors have been facing. Now, there is one member of the council who attended a management committee not so long ago, who said, and I quote, "Why should we cut their grass to make them look good?"
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Who is they're talking about Lincolnshire County Council. Why cut Lincolnshire County Council to make them look good?
Yeah, well, I have to say that I missed a beat when I heard that, and it set me back a little bit, because the answer that I would have liked to have given that councillor was, why consider whether or not we're making Lincolnshire County Council look good? Because we're not. Because they would be doing exactly what we'd be doing if we weren't cutting these 12 times a year, that we're cutting them 3 times a year, which is what they pay us to do. My point of view would have been, not why are we making Lincolnshire County Council look good, but why are we making Skegness look good? And at this time up until April of next year, we are making Skegness look good because we are cutting the grass. As soon as we stop cutting the grass, we're going to make Skegness look worse.
Look, yeah.
And it's completely immaterial.
It's not easy. It's not Lincolnshire County Council that have stopped cutting the grass. They stopped how many years ago now?
2016, the decision was made.
It is you that has said that comment that has stopped cutting the grass.
Yeah.
That's why, I've seen comments, well, why don't you all, it's just like being at school.
I know.
But can't you all just get along? And it's like...
We try.
We know
want
why.
to.
Because an apolitical, that's kind of a topic we're going to discuss a bit later.
In a little bit.
Yeah. But there was a supposedly apolitical member of that...
non-political grouping.
Yeah. Whom actually confessed, and we all know what's coming round in 18 months' time.
Absolutely.
That is what this is about.
Yeah.
Trying to get a foot in the door. Look how Lincolnshire County Council does not support Skegness. Let's just forget about the fact that we've now got how many roads that are currently under construction at the moment?
6, I think.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not defending, if I was a Lincolnshire, I couldn't defend half of the stuff. But, yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it?
I mean, let's put it this way, okay? In 2016, Lincolnshire County Council were cutting the grass 10 or 12 times a year. Because of their budget constraints, they said, no, we're not going to do that anymore because we can't afford to do it. We're going to cut it 3 times a year, which is the health and safety statutory requirement we have got.
Yeah, if I remember,
Now,
they quoted, didn't they, that, we're going to have to make tough calls. We can't stop health and social care.
Absolutely. I mean, there's lots of things in the background to this, but getting to the nub of this. So that is what they did. They said, we're not going to cut it for 12 times a year. We'll only cut it for 3 times a year. Now, in actual fact, that is exactly the same as Skegness Town Council are now doing, because we are cutting it for 12 times a year. And we are now saying, well, actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to cut it for 3 times a year. Well, no, we're not. We're going to send it back to the county council, who are only going to cut it 3. So what they've done, we're doing.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that not all grassland in Skegness is not going to be cut. I mean, the team will still be there to mow, the Tower Gardens, Beresford Fields, Winthorpe Play,
All
amenity.
of the-
Yeah. But the issue is, it's efficiency.
Absolutely.
If you lose a member of the team, we've all worked in small companies at some point, I'm sure.
Well, some have, some haven't.
Well, I guess. But we all know that the moment you've got a member of the team down, everybody else has to pick up the slack. If you've got somebody on long-term illness, that can significantly impact. If you've got a slightly larger team, it's less of a problem. You reduce the team, then the statutory obliged activities like grave digging, burials, that will take a precedence over cutting the football pitch on Beresford Fields. Is that what we want?
Well, I don't think it is, to be fair. And I mean, the
Emptying bins down Vine Walk.
Yeah, I mean, that now. I walk my dog up there on a regular basis, and I know where you're coming from. But no, that's not the point. I think the point is that a decision has been made, which in the way I view it is
just say opinion. You are allowed one.
My opinion is I couldn't remember what the word was. It's me age.
Yeah.
It's me age. But in my opinion, it's a very, very, very bad decision to make because it's got so many ramifications to it.
I mean, we're talking 3p.
Hang on, I ain't finished yet. Give us a minute. It's going to make cutting the grass that we have got, that we are going to remain cutting, is going to be more expensive. We are losing £11,500, which we receive, which I think is the right figure, which we receive from Lincolnshire County Council to cut the grass. We are then making somebody redundant, which apparently is going to save us £8,500 this year, but it could cost us more than that to make them redundant. And going forward, I have heard people say, "Well, that's okay because going forward we'll save more money every year."
It's not how it works.
But that's not how it works.
You budget for what?
You budget for what you're actually doing. So if you're not going to cut the verges next year, it doesn't go in the budget. Therefore, you're not saving any money. It's the whole thing to me is wrong. It's wrong thinking, and it makes no sense whatsoever.
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
To whom?
Well, it depends on what the objective is. I mean, we've come back to this vision, and
well, yeah, I know.
But if you're that desperate for a seat at the table at a larger council, then maybe you will take a decision that.
Based on that.
Yeah, it's dumbfounded. It's just going to do the opposite.
Well, I mean that's right. I mean we had two senior councillors, one who is an ex-mayor and one who is going to be mayor in the very near future, both of whom basically said, "Look, this is a political decision."
There is
because we want to get a seat at the table at Lincolnshire County Council, and to do that, they're going to make the town look worse, and they are going to actually take away the livelihood of a member of our staff who has either rent to pay or a mortgage to pay, may have children, has to put food on the table, has all the expenses that we all have, and their job is being taken away on a political whim.
Yeah, I think it's a little bigger than that, because if one person is made redundant, everybody has to go through due process, of course. If it was me, I'd be looking at my plan B.
I'd be panicking now.
A little bit, yeah. And the way that it was, the way that it was publicised, I think is the right phrase, just adds even more risk. If you're an employee, you want to work for an organisation that has the lowest amount of risk for your overall financial well-being, surely, and your overall work ethics. If you're constantly fearful that the next 4 years you're going to have a change of council, which would put your it's a tough one to sell.
It is. I feel awfully sorry for the staff now. I mean, I don't know who the person is that actually released the information, which should have been kept confidential, private, secret is the word if you want to use it. That's too strong for me.
Well,
But what they've actually done is they've made the life of our staff far more difficult. And I say our staff.
the collective hour of the council, you mean?
No.
And residents.
Actually, I was going to say our staff, and that includes the residents, because they are paying the wages.
So I would like to hear what you think about this. If, of course, the social media is all well and good, and you know, we do see some of the comments. Well, I personally don't that much, to be honest. I try and avoid it. But
I do.
Yeah, there's one crazy person that likes the doom scrolling. But yeah, keep that conversation going. Or if you'd like to, you know, if we get a good feedback about this podcast, we will be back, and we would like to invite some people as guest speakers of all persuasions. You know, it's not about, we want to be transparent. We want to share information. We want to share the debate in a way that is not flowered with, of course, we're entitled to an opinion. I'm entitled to an opinion.
No, you're not.
Yeah, have your say. You can drop us an email on hello@sdppodcast.co.uk. That's hello@spd, Sierra Papa Delta, podcast.co.uk. We might be able to invite. So pop a little phone number down, and we'll see what we can do in a future release. Because I know at the moment there's plenty to talk about.
Absolutely.
Now let's move on to our next topic then. Apolitical. What is the term apolitical and non-political? What is that all about?
That's an interesting little question, really. Non-political actually means that you are non-political. You have got
independent.
You have got no interest in politics whatsoever. Non-political.
Can you get a group of people that are non-political?
Not if they're a political party.
What are you talking about?
Well, let's put it this way, okay? If you form a political party,
yeah,
and you expect the members of your group, let's put it this way, let's say a political group, not a political party, you expect the members of your group
I can't imagine they have much partying going on.
No, I can't either. to agree with you. Will you shut up a minute? To agree with you. I'm making a point here. This is a very important point. If you have got a political group and you expect the people within your group to follow your vision, your political line, then you are a political party. You can tell people till you're blue in the face that you're not political, but you are, especially if you disagree with other people on an organisation like Skegness Town Council, like ELDC, like any political organisation. If you disagree with people and you are going to argue a case against other people, then you are political.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, I don't want to put the impression that having political motivation isn't a good thing. I mean, if you get a group of individuals that all mutually agree in a certain direction and journey together, then of course that is what democracy is about.
Absolutely.
But denying that is happening.
Absolutely.
And selling that story to residents, we're not political.
Yeah, I know. We're not a political party. However,
but we're whipped.
I mean, that whipped is another thing.
Yeah, what's that even mean? I mean, come on.
Well, we can get there in a minute. Now, apolitical actually means that for a certain, shall we say, period of time, or if you are in a position where you are not supposed to take a political view within the organisation, then that makes you apolitical, because you should give every political view the same.
You mean like officers? Officers of an organisation.
Yeah,
they're hired to give advice that's unbiased, that is both sides of a discussion and the consequences associated.
Absolutely. But there are positions within the council in Skegness, that would be the mayor of Skegness,
Yeah.
is expected to be apolitical. So he or she runs,
Or they.
or they, or whatever you want to, but don't let's go there because we could be here for the rest of the night. They have a responsibility to treat everybody on the council in exactly the same way and not show any political bias whatsoever. Now that is being apolitical. I hope I've explained that in words of one syllable that and I'm not being rude here, but people can understand.
No, I'm not going to lie. I think let me try and reiterate it. So you're saying that it's a post of, importance that is not supposed to go either side. That's just purely factual and down the line and giving people equal opportunity irrespective.
Absolutely.
And that is how we're not, because I became elected when I was 23.
23 what?
Years old.
Oh, right.
For some unknown reason, I thought, it'd be a bit of fun. Find out. And do you know what? I have actually learned quite a lot about all sorts of things, planning. And I don't want to dissuade, if that's the right word, anybody from getting involved in this sort of thing. But that's exactly what I did. And it all started approximately, well, I know exactly when it started. It used to be an occasion where the members of a political party would quite happily disagree with each other. And quite happy to do that. And it wasn't a problem. You could disagree with your colleagues and, even there's so many different flavours of their party, the parties that many people have been representing. But even other people, that were all, completely apolitical to a certain extent. It didn't really matter. There was no over-whipping or anything of that nature. Right, the council had a vision to stop paying rent for an office that East Lindsey owned, to instead take a
view.
Take a view that we can take control of our own destiny. We can use the Localism Act. We can get a public board loan. I know this is a controversial one, and I know I'm digressing slightly, but the decision was made apolitically. There were people of differing parties agreeing and disagreeing, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
For me, this changed in 2019.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Yes, I do know why.
Share it.
Because if you have one party, and I'm going to use the word party, not grouping, because that's not, the grouping is the wrong term. If you have one party who are so partisan to their own view that they will not listen or accept any other view, and they will carry on along a route of their own making.
Oh, I've got a dog coming on my knee now. Hello.
She's gorgeous. If they want to carry on a route of their own making, with no respect to what anybody else thinks, then unfortunately the only way that other people can be heard is to react to that in a negative way.
Well, I know exactly when it all became political. Now, there used to be a very clear-cut, well, maybe it wasn't that clear-cut, but there was a consistent mayoral selection process.
Yes.
It's based on the amount of years served.
Which had been running since 1974, when Skegness Town Council actually came into being.
Yeah, well, there was one. What happens is you get selected to be deputy mayor. You support the mayor when the mayor is not able to attend specific functions and that kind of thing. And, it is the status quo that you then rise to become the mayor once that mayoral term is over. This happened slap bang in between an election, the deputy mayor was fortunate, well, I won't say fortunate, but was successful in re-election.
Absolutely.
But the political party, no, we're not having this.
Yeah,
we are voting together to stop this individual from becoming the mayor, which they'd already put the effort in. That's unforgivable.
Not only is it unforgivable, it's unbelievable to me.
Irrespective of whether you like the individuals.
I was going to say, irrespective of who the individual is. And now we have a system whereby...
I don't understand.
Well, I don't fully understand it. I asked the town clerk some while ago, and he sent me a paper that showed how it worked. And
I think I need a diagram.
I think, to be honest with you, I think I disappeared.
I'm not saying the previous version was any less easy to, but what we knew, it was going to be consistent.
What we knew was, if you were on the council long enough, you were going to become the mayor, and what it meant was that virtually every mayor had several years of experience of being a councillor under their belt, and when they became chairman of the council, which is basically what the mayor is in a parish council or a town council, you had the knowledge, you had the ability, and you had the experience to actually be able to take that on. That's not
to challenge, to chair it, to actually insist that there's efficient pace of discussion.
Absolutely.
And am I right in thinking now that technically you can become mayor having never sat in that chamber before? Is it 1 year? That's all you need to do?
I think it probably is now. That actually weakens the council. It weakens the level of debate. It weakens the level of decision making, and it's not a good thing, to be fair.
Well, I'm sure there's some extremely competent chairpersons that are able to do that after a year. But I know, this is my 9th year now, I think it is. I'm still having to learn, all sorts of things in respect of rules and for planning and budget setting, risk management. I even did some event training, marshal training for temporary traffic regulation orders or what, something of that nature. It's quite fun. But bringing it back to the main topic, so non-political.
Yeah.
Is you can vote wherever you want. You are your own person.
Yeah.
You're not going for any particular line other than your own moral compass.
Absolutely.
And then apolitical is kind of a role that is more important than the individual themselves, more important than potentially the party. You are representing king and country.
You're actually representing the council as a whole.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing.
What do you think? What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Is it working for you? Are you fully in understanding what non-political and apolitical is all about? Because looking at the comments, the social media comments, I don't think even the people themselves elected truly understand.
No, I don't either.
Well, shall we move on to our final topic? Because we have kind of been ranting on now for, best part of 45 minutes.
Well, yeah, but I mean... you have to say, I'm sure it's been very, very sort of interesting.
Well, I know you like the sound of your own voice.
Says Dan.
Well, you've got those headphones on and you haven't taken them off once. That says it all. But yeah, the next most important thing that we need to explore is the Remembrance Parade ceremony.
Yeah.
Now, it used to be the case that police forces and other uniformed public services would take part in an operational stance with respect of parades of this nature, helping assist closing roads and things like that.
Yeah.
We know that that's not possible for a myriad of different reasons.
Yeah.
One would argue that it's better that their time is spent investigating crime, investigating child protection.
Reacting to crime.
Yeah.
The whole thing, yes.
Well, I'd rather they're proactive, to be honest. But yeah.
Yeah, proactive, reactive.
Yeah, so it fell on the volunteers of the community to kind of put this together. Now, it's not just a simple case of putting a few cones across a road and saying, that's it, the road's closed, come back in 3 or 4 hours. As simple as that may sound, there's a certain legislation that has to go through. You've got to put in place a temporary traffic regulation order, which allows you to close a road for a particular reason. You've got to have an event management plan to ensure effective entrance and departure of locations. You've got to make sure that appropriate people are trained. You've got to have somebody in place to put the barriers up, put the bollards across the road, inform motorists about what's going on if they haven't already seen the signage that must be in place at least 2 weeks before such an event. All of this takes time, and it has been a challenge. It came upon the Skegness Town Council a few years ago that something's got to be done. This has to happen every year.
Yeah.
As a minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't particularly have an armed forces background at all, but we need to remember them.
Absolutely. I mean, I did 23 years in the army, and remembrance to me is
civic duty.
It's very, very important. Some people might say, well, why don't you volunteer to close the roads? Well, the answer to that is because
you're in the parade.
I want to be a part of the group of people who are actually showing the necessary and quite correct respect for those who have been injured or killed over, I mean, we're talking decades, aren't we, really? It started in 1920, was the first
in Ypres, wasn't it?
Parade. No, this 1920 was after the First World War.
Yeah, in
Ypres. That's when they started. No, it was actually in the UK. They started in the UK.
Okay, see, every day's a learning day.
Well, there you are, you see, and then it's grown from there, and it is a civic. It is a civic event. So
what do you mean by civic?
It should be run by the council. The council are the civic authority, and they should actually organise all of this. But they don't. I mean, most councils do not have the ability to understand
technical competence,
where it's coming from. And so it normally is down to your local Royal British Legion, etc., etc. And it's very important. And for me, I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I joined the army in 1972, and I can't remember 1 year where I haven't attended some kind of remembrance parade, be it on detachment, away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I think it's clear that it's important. Yeah, absolutely.
It's hugely important. And if we need a group of people who are available and willing to actually volunteer to help out to close the roads. They don't have to close the roads, they just have to stand there and say, sorry, the road is closed, basically.
Well, no, there is they do have to put the bollards out at a very specific time, but we'll talk about that just for a moment. So we are talking very much particularly in respect of the Skegness Remembrance Parade, which takes place on Sunday the 12th of November. The road needs to be closed and will be closed at 10 a.m. sharp. And the parade, the march, departs from the goods yard at the Hildreds on Beresford Avenue. We shall parade up to Lumley Road Junction, turn a left, parade for approximately, 500 yards, 400 yards, until we then turn right onto Lumley Avenue. And as we all know, we do have to be inclusive, so a ramp has to be available for that curbstone to allow any of our participants whom aren't able to walk in order to access and do their civic duty. So that has to all be in place, and then it's all congregated at the Cenotaph on Scarborough Avenue roundabout, of course. The road should reopen. It needs to reopen at 11:30, but of course there'll be the laying of wreaths. It's not a religious event particularly, but it is hosted by the volunteers, and also members of the church community at St Matthew's will be leading certain aspects, which absolutely is quite right. But there is a call for help needed.
Yes, indeed.
The volunteers that are running this, we need 23 individuals.
23?
Yeah. 23 individuals.
Can I whistle? Blimey.
Yeah, I know, but you have to have two people for each
barrier.
Yeah. And that's because there's safe handling, manual handling, some of these railings.
Not these silly things. These things are in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't have like lone working policy. We have lone working procedures as well, where if somebody was taken ill and there wasn't another person there, then obviously that's a risk that has to be mitigated. 23. This is mostly being led, I believe, by Trevor Burnham.
Yeah, Councillor Burnham.
True hats off. He's put a lot of work in, and as has many of the volunteers. I can't possibly name them all, but I just want to say a huge thank you for anybody that's donated their time, whether that's strategically in meetings or operationally with respect of making sure that this event happens safely. But we still need more. I think the last check there was about 16, which,
I don't know.
That's pretty good, but it will happen. Don't get me wrong, but we just need a bit more help. I think is fair to state. Now, if you are able to donate, a couple of hours, you're going to need to be there for 9:30 so that you can be briefed and trained by the designated lead of that, the designated senior person. And you will be needed until approximately 11:30. Well, that's when the road will be reopened. So you're probably going to need 12, 12, something like that. If you are able to donate some of your time, then just get in contact with the town council. You can either give them a call on Skegness 01754 840040. That's Skegness 01754 840040. Or if you just drop them an email at info@skegnesscouncil.org.uk, that's info@skegnesscouncil.org.uk. They will put you in contact with the organisers so that we can ensure that we remember them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's for anybody. So I think we're probably safest to say anybody over the age of 16, probably.
I think it might have to be 18. Because of... they come under volunteer. They've got to be legally responsible for decisions and that kind of thing.
Well, I'm 68 and I don't think that anyway, but that's by the by. Yeah, so I mean...
There are other prerequisites. I don't know them off the top of my head. You do need to be physically able to do, though it's not marshalling, it's assisting. It's assisting with the moving of the bollards and being there as a point of contact in case people are a bit confused as to why the roads are closed on Remembrance Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, I mean, what I was going to say was that whatever the age limit is, if it's over 18, it's open to anybody, male, female, anybody can actually come and give us a hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see such huge numbers, and come rain or shine,
it's always well attended.
Yeah, it's got to be. I appreciate that there's people that are not quite happy with the fact that the parade length is not what it was. I'm in agreement, but we're not here for that. We just need to get it done properly. We need to honour those that have worked and served or even lost their lives to allow us to work in freedom and live in freedom. If you are able to spare those few hours, that would be most appreciated.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's pretty much us wrapped up for this episode.
Yeah, it was a bit of a ramble, really, for the first one, wasn't it? I mean, I'm not sure we've.
Well, what do you think?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. And
I'm not about you. You'll talk for England. It's not that. What do you think? Let us know. Give us drop us an email. hello@spd. That's Skegness Political Discussion. So hello@spdpodcast.co.uk. We'd love to hear from you. If we get a good response from this, then we'll look at doing some invited guests so that we can raise some more local political discussion.
And just so that anybody who may be thinking, well, we've already had somebody that's been out there and given away all the information from this from this private discussion.
Spit it out.
This podcast will not go out until we have been given the nod from the town clerk that we can actually discuss the relevant information and put it out into the public domain, because we don't behave in that way.
I think the damage is already done by the time we're recording this. The damage is already done. But quite right. Our objective again is to have a frank discussion about stuff that impacts us all, whether it's small or otherwise. I think it's useful to have the conversation. I think it's really important to not hide behind closed social media groups, which some people do. And we want to be factual and share everything
that we can.
Yeah.
That we can. Not everything. We don't really share everything.
You didn't let me finish the sentence.
Only what we can.
Anyway, thank you so very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you very much. And